The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station was usually quiet. Lieutenant Commander Park Jisoo sat at her console, watching endless streams of data from the galaxy's edge. Most nights, nothing happened. Radio waves from distant stars. Cosmic background radiation. Occasional meteor shower, that was all. But tonight was different. At 0347 hours, the computers started beeping. Jisoo rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the screen. A signal was coming from the Kepler 442 system, over 400 light-years away. The signal was weak, breaking apart, but it was definitely artificial.
Captain Kim,
she called to her supervisor. You need to see this. Captain Kim Dae-ho walked over, carrying his coffee mug. He had been monitoring deep space for 15 years and rarely got excited about anything. But when he heard the broken transmission coming through the speakers, his face changed. The voice was not human, spoke in clicks and whistles, but the computer was already working to translate it. Slowly, words began to appear on the screen. Help, ... anyone, ... listening. They consume ... we are dying. What is this signal? Kim asked. Based on the distance and signal decay. About 6 months, Jisoo replied. Sir, if this is real, ... double quotes. Kim nodded grimly. Contact Admiral Lee immediately. He needs to hear this. 30 minutes later, Admiral Lee Hunwoo was standing in the monitoring station, listening to the full message. The computer had cleaned up most of the static. The translated words made his blood run cold. We are the Volari of the fourth world in your star charts. A great evil has come to our region of space. They call themselves nothing, but we call them the Devourers. They strip worlds bare of all life, then move to the next system. We have sent this message to 47 different civilizations. None have answered. Our world dies, our people die. If anyone receives this message, please remember us. The room was silent for a long moment. Admiral Lee had spent his career preparing for humanity's expansion into space. First contact protocols, trade agreements, peaceful exploration, those were the things that kept him awake at night, not this. Sir, Captain Kim said carefully, this could be a hoax. We have no way to verify it's real, Lee interrupted. He had been studying the mathematical patterns hidden in the signal's carrier wave. Every species that achieved radio technology embedded certain universal constants in their transmissions. These constants were genuine. The question is, what do we do about it? The debate that followed would later be remembered as one of the most important moments in human history. Admiral Lee's staff was divided. Commander Choi Min-ho argued for caution. We've only had faster-than-light travel for 3 years. We have 2 small colonies and maybe 50 ships capable of interstellar flight. Can't risk everything on a signal from 400 light-years away. But Admiral Lee was thinking about something else. He remembered reading about Earth's history, about the times when good people did nothing while evil spread. He thought about his daughter, who was 7 years old and dreamed of becoming an explorer. What kind of galaxy would she inherit if humanity turned away from this cry for help? How long would it take to reach their system, he asked. With our fastest ships, about 3 weeks, replied Navigation Officer Han Sel. How long before these devourers could reach Earth? The room fell silent as the computers calculated. Finally, Dr. Song Mina from the Science Division spoke up. If they're expanding at a steady rate and consuming worlds as they go, maybe 40 to 50 years? Lee stood up. Then we're not just talking about helping strangers, we're talking about our own survival. He looked around the room at his officers. Prepare a reconnaissance fleet. If someone is calling for help, Earth answers, Sir, Commander Choi protested. The other nations will never approve. Then we don't ask them, Lee replied. We inform them.
Yes.
This is happening whether they like it or not. Within 6 hours, the message had reached the highest levels of Earth's government. President Yoon Jae-won convened an emergency session of the World Security Council. The debate was fierce, but Admiral Lee's words carried weight. 47 civilizations received this message. 47. None of them responded. What does that tell us about our galaxy? What does that tell us about what kind of neighbors we have? At the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would respond to the Volari distress call, as Admiral Lee prepared his small fleet for departure. He couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the two universe. They knew they weren't alone, but they might be the only ones willing to fight. The last thing he did before leaving Earth was record a message for his daughter. Salman, by the time you hear this, Daddy will be very far away, helping some people who are in trouble. Remember what I always tell you. We help people because it's the right thing to do. That's what makes us human. 3 days later, Admiral Lee's fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity toward its first interstellar war. Admiral Lee's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go silent. The fourth planet, which should have been green and blue like Earth, was gray and dying, massive black. Shapes moved around it like giant metal insects feeding on a corpse. "My God," whispered Captain Park Jeong from her position at the tactical station. "What are those things?" The objects orbiting the planet were enormous. Each one was bigger than Earth's moon. They had long tentacles that reached down to the planet's surface, and the crew could see streams of material flowing from the world into the dark ships above. "They're eating the planet," said Dr. Songmina, her voice barely audible. "They're literally consuming everything." Communications Officer Han Sel suddenly looked up from her console. "Admiral, I'm receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's weak, but it's the same signal pattern we detected from Earth." "Put it through," Admiral Lee ordered. The face that appeared on their main screen was nothing like what humans had imagined aliens would look like. The creature had large, gentle eyes and features that reminded them of deer from Earth's forests. But those eyes held a sadness so deep, it made several crew members look away. You actually came," the alien said in broken English. The ship's computer was translating his words in real time. "I cannot believe it. I am Veltar, Council Speaker of the Valari. We thought we would die alone." Admiral Lee stepped forward. "We received your message. We're here to help." "What are those things attacking your world?" Veltar's eyes filled with what looked like tears. "The Devourers. They appeared in our system 8 months ago. First, they consumed our outer planets, the gas giants, the asteroid belts. We thought they would leave, but then they came for our world." "How do they work?" asked Captain Park. She was studying the massive ships through the fleet's sensors. "Are they machines or living creatures?" "Both," Veltar replied. "They are like a disease that spreads from world to world. You take everything organic, plants, animals, even bacteria. They leave nothing behind but bare rock." Dr. Song was analyzing the data from their scans. "Admiral, those ships aren't just harvesting organic matter, they're taking the atmosphere too. In a few more days, that planet will be completely dead." Admiral Lee felt anger building inside him. "Veltar, how many of your people are still alive?" "Perhaps 20,000, scattered in underground shelters." "We were once a civilization of 2 billion, the alien's voice broke. "Admiral, you must leave. Your ships are small compared to theirs. If they detect you, let them detect us," Lee interrupted. "We didn't come this far to run away." "How many other worlds have they destroyed?" Veltar was quiet for a moment. "In our region of space, over 300 civilizations have fallen to them. It's the Kethri, who could manipulate gravity itself. The Zephyrians, who built cities in their gas giants' clouds. The Mineralic Collective, who lived for thousands of years. All gone." "You said you sent distress calls to 47 civilizations," said Hansel. "What happened to them?" "Some fled to distant galaxies. Others went into hiding on remote worlds. A few tried to negotiate." Veltar's large eyes looked directly at Admiral Lee. "You are the first to come with warships." Captain Park was studying the tactical display. "These Devourers, do they communicate? Do they have demands?" "They do not speak," Veltar replied. "They simply consume. They are like a force of nature, a cosmic hurricane that destroys everything in its path. But they are not mindless. They are intelligent, organized. They plan their attacks carefully." Admiral Lee was thinking fast. His small fleet had 6 ships and maybe 300 crew members total. The Devourer vessels were massive beyond imagination. But humans had won battles against impossible odds before. "Veltar, we're going to get your people off that planet," he said finally. But first, I need to know everything you can tell me about these creatures, their weaknesses, their tactics, everything. Admiral Veltar said urgently, "You do not understand. They will not stop with our world. They're moving toward the galaxy's center, consuming everything in their path. Eventually, they will reach your Earth." The bridge fell silent as this sank in. Commander Choi Minho spoke first. "How long do we have?" "At their current rate of expansion," Veltar calculated, "perhaps 50% of your years before they reach your solar system." Dr. Song looked at Admiral Lee. "Sir, 50 years sounds like a long time, but if these things are as dangerous as they appear, it's not long enough," Lee finished. "We need to stop them here, or at least learn how to fight them." He turned back to the screen. "Velta, we're going to do everything we can to save your people, but we're also going to need your help to fight this threat." The alien's eyes widened. "You would fight them? For strangers you have never met?" Admiral Lee smiled grimly. "That's what humans do. We protect people who can't protect themselves." "But why?" Veltar asked. "What do you gain from helping us?" "Knowledge that we did the right thing," Lee replied. "And maybe the information we need to save our own world." The rescue of 17,000 Valari survivors took 3 days. Admiral Lee's ships worked around the clock, dodging the massive Devourer constructs as they pulled terrified aliens from underground shelters. At a time they jumped back to hyperspace. The fourth planet of Kepler 442 was nothing but a gray ball of rock. When Admiral Lee returned to Earth, he brought more than refugees. He brought proof that humanity was not alone in the universe and that something was coming to destroy them. President Yoon Jae-won stood before the emergency session of the World Council, his face grave as he addressed the leaders of 200 nations. Behind him, holographic displays showed the Devourer ships consuming the Valari homeworld. "Fellow leaders," President Yoon began. "6 months ago, we received a cry for help from across the galaxy. Today, I can tell you that cry was real, and the threat it warned us about is heading toward Earth." The room erupted in chaos. Some leaders demanded proof. Others called for immediate evacuation to distant star systems. But Admiral Lee stepped forward and played the recordings from the Valari database. World after world consumed. Civilization after civilization destroyed. "How long do we have?" asked the Prime Minister of Korea. 50 years, maybe less, Admiral," Lee replied. "The Devourers move systematically, consuming everything in their path. They will reach our solar system eventually." The President of Brazil stood up. "What are you suggesting we do?" "Fight creatures that destroyed hundreds of advanced civilizations." "Yes," President Yoon said simply. "Because that's what humans do. We fight back." Within weeks, Earth transformed. Every nation put aside old conflicts and joined the human defense coalition. Factories that had made cars and computers now produced weapons and armor. Universities that had studied literature and art now researched alien biology and space warfare. Admiral Kim Sun-ho took charge of the Luna shipyards where humanity's first true warships began taking shape. These were not the exploration vessels of the past. They were designed for one purpose: killing Devourers. "The aliens we rescued have been very helpful," Kim told his engineering team. "The Devourers have biological armor that can adapt to energy weapons, but they've never faced human military thinking." Dr. Song Mina worked with Valari scientists to understand Devourer biology. In her laboratory, she studied tissue samples that Admiral Lee's team had collected from the attack site. "They're part machine, part living creature," she explained to the research team. "They can heal damage and adapt to new threats. But they have one weakness. They're all connected to a central consciousness. If we can disrupt that connection, can kill them all at once," finished her assistant. Dr. Park Jin-yuk, on Mars. General Cho Sung-jin oversaw the construction of weapons that would have been considered war crimes if used against humans. Plasma cannons that could melt through starship hulls. Gravity bombs that could crush entire fleets. Kinetic weapons that fired solid metal bars at nearly the speed of light. "The Devourers are used to fighting prey," General Cho told his staff. "Civilizations that run away or try to hide. They've never fought predators." In the asteroid belt, Captain Lee Hanna trained the first zero-gravity Marines. These elite soldiers would fight inside devourer ships, in the vacuum of space, under conditions that would kill ordinary humans. Remember, she told her trainees as they practiced combat in zero gravity? The devourers are bigger than us, stronger than us, and they outnumber us. But they've never fought someone who fights back harder when they're cornered. The Valari refugees watched humanity's transformation with amazement. Valari, now living in a special habitat in Earth's orbit, often spoke with Admiral Lee about what he was witnessing. "Your people are incredible," Veltar said during one of their meetings. "In less than 1 year, you have built what our civilization could not build in 1,000 years. "That's because you've built for peace," Admiral Lee replied. "And human warships launch from Earth's orbital platforms. We've spent our entire history learning how to fight, but why?" Veltar asked. "Why do you choose to fight instead of flee like the other civilizations?" Admiral Lee thought about his daughter Salman, now 8 years old and attending school with young Valari refugees. Human and alien children played together in the corridors of the space station, sharing toys and learning each other's languages. "Because if we don't fight, who will?" Lee said finally. "If we run, the devourers will eventually catch us anyway. But if we stand and fight, maybe we can stop them before they destroy anyone else." The first test of humanity's new weapons came. Sooner than expected, long-range sensors detected a small devourer scouting force approaching the Proxima Centauri system. Where humanity had established its first interstellar colony, Commander Park Jin-woo volunteered to lead the defense mission. His small fleet of 6 warships was vastly outnumbered, but they carried humanity's new weapons and humanity's determination to protect what was theirs. "All ships, this is Park," he broadcast as they approached the enemy. "Today we find out if humans can fight monsters. Let's show these things what happens when they threaten our home." The battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, the Devourer scouts were nothing but debris floating in space. Humanity had won its first victory against the creatures that had terrorized the galaxy. But Admiral Lee knew this was just the beginning. The real war was still coming. The victory at Proxima Centauri sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The first time in centuries, someone had actually fought the Devourers and won. Species that had been hiding in distant star systems suddenly began listening to Earth's broadcasts. Commander Park Jin-woo became humanity's first war hero overnight. His combat footage showed human ships dancing around massive Devourer bioconstructs, striking with precision weapons that the aliens had never encountered before. The key was humanity's approach to warfare. They didn't just try to destroy the enemy, they made sure nothing could survive or regenerate. "Fire everything," Park had ordered during the battle. "Nuclear missiles first, then plasma bombardment, then kinetic strikes. I want nothing left but atoms." The Devourers had never faced an enemy that believed in complete destruction. Other civilizations tried to disable or drive them away. Humans tried to erase them from existence. Admiral Lee used this first victory to rally other species. He sent messages to every corner of the galaxy. "This is Admiral Lee of the Human Defense Coalition. We have proven the Devourers can be defeated. If you want to fight back, contact us. If you want to hide forever, that's your choice." The first aliens to respond were the Thylus, an aquatic species trapped on their ocean world for 2 years. Captain Jung-hoon led the Liberation mission with 3 warships and 200 zero-G Marines. The Thylus system was a nightmare. Devourer feeding platforms hung in orbit like mechanical spiders, slowly draining the planet's oceans. The beautiful blue world was turning brown as billions of sea creatures were consumed. "Marines, this is Jung," she broadcast as her soldiers prepared to board the enemy platforms. "These things have been eating our new friends for 2 years. Time to return the favor." What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. Human Marines in powered armor fought hand-to-hand combat inside Devourer bioships. They moved through zero gravity like dancers, using weapons designed specifically to kill creatures that could adapt and regenerate. Sergeant Kim Tae-yeon led his squad through the feeding tubes of a massive Devourer construct. The walls around them pulsed like living tissue, and the air was thick with organic mist. "Contact front." one of his marines shouted as devourer creatures poured toward them. These were smaller than the ship-sized constructs, but still twice the size of humans. With razor-sharp claws and teeth like metal spikes, "Light them up," Kim ordered. The Marines opened fire with plasma rifles designed by human engineers. The weapons didn't just burn through devourer flesh. They left behind radiation that prevented regeneration. Within minutes, the corridor was filled with the screams of dying aliens down on the Thylus homeworld. The aquatic aliens watched the battle through their underwater cities. They had never seen anything like it. The humans weren't running or hiding. They were actively hunting the creatures that had terrorized them. "They're fighting inside the feeding platforms," whispered Thylus, Elder Blue Wave, to his council. "They're actually boarding devourer ships and fighting them face to face." When the battle was over, Captain Jung stood in the ruins of the last devourer platform. Around her, human marines were checking for survivors and making sure nothing could regenerate. "This is Yang 2 Fleet Command," she reported. "Thylus is free. Beginning evacuation of survivors." The Thylus who met her on the surface could barely speak. Through their translation devices, they asked the same question over and over. "Why? Why did you fight for us?" "'Cause that's what we do," Jung replied simply. "We protect people who can't protect themselves." Word of the Thylus liberation spread even faster than the Proxima victory. More species began contacting Earth, the hegemony of Veilcos, the crystal beings of Shard Prime, the gas-dwelling Zephyrians, all species that had fled or hidden when the Devourers came. But humanity's greatest victory came at the Kethri system. The Kethri had been one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, masters of gravity manipulation. But even they had fallen to the Devourers 3 years ago. Admiral Kim Sun-ho led the Liberation Fleet personally. The system was heavily defended by Devourer hive ships, each one the size of a small moon. But humanity had spent 2 years learning how to fight these creatures. "All ships, this is Kim," he broadcast as the fleet approached. "The Kethri were trying to negotiate when they died. We're not here to talk." The battle lasted 6 hours. Human ships used the Kethri's abandoned gravity weapons against the Devourers, creating artificial black holes that tore the bioships apart from the inside. When it was over, 17 Devourer hive ships were nothing but debris in the ruins of the Kethri capital city. Admiral Kim found something incredible: a database containing information about Devourer movements across the entire galaxy. The records showed hundreds of consumed worlds, but they also showed something else: the location of the Devourer home base. Mariel Lee Kim reported over the quantum communicator, "I've found it. The Prime Hive, the center of their entire network." Back on Earth, Admiral Lee studied the data with growing excitement. The Devourer Prime Hive was located in a dead galaxy, feeding on the energy of collapsed stars. It was massive beyond imagination, larger than Earth's moon, but it was also their greatest weakness. "If we can destroy the Prime Hive," Dr. Song Mina explained to the War Council, "we can break their collective consciousness. Every Devourer in the galaxy will die at once." Admiral Lee looked around the room at his officers. "Then that's what we're going to do. We're going to end this war once and for all." The Devourer Prime Hive floated in the darkness where a galaxy had once lived. It was a nightmare made real, a biomechanical monster the size of Earth's moon, covered in tentacles that reached out into space like the arms of a dying octopus. Around it, smaller hive ships moved like pilot fish around a shark. Admiral Lee Hunhua stood on the bridge of the UDS Final Answer, humanity's most powerful warship. Behind him stretched the largest fleet in galactic history, ships from 12 different species, all united under human command. The Thylus had sent their sleek underwater vessels. The crystal beings of Shard Prime brought ships that looked like floating diamonds. Even some Valari flew beside them in converted cargo ships. "All ships, this is Admiral Lee," he broadcast across the fleet. "Today we end the threat that has terrorized our galaxy for centuries. Today we show the universe that evil can be defeated." The battle began when the Prime Hive detected their approach. Massive tentacles, each one bigger than a human battleship, lashed out toward the fleet. But humanity had learned much in 2 years of fighting devourers. Captain Ominciok led his fighter squadron directly into the maze of tentacles. His wife, Commander Ogian, coordinated the main fleet's attack from the command ship. They had fought together in a dozen battles, and they moved like dancers who knew each other's every step. Minciok, you have 3 massive tentacles coming. At you from the left, Gion warned over the radio. I see them, he replied, rolling his fighter between 2 grasping appendages. Just keep those big guns firing. The human fighters moved through the devourer defenses like sharks through water. They had been designed for this moment, fast, agile, and armed with weapons that could punch through bioarmor. Right behind them, the larger ships poured fire into the Prime Hive's main body, but the Hive was fighting back. Smaller devourer ships launched from ports in its surface, each one the size of a human destroyer. The space around the Prime Hive became a swirling battle zone of ships, energy beams and explosions. Captain Jung Houn led her Marines in a direct assault on one of the Hive's feeding ports. Her soldiers moved through the enemy's interior like a virus attacking a cell. They had trained for this, fighting inside a living enemy in cramped spaces where their human size was an advantage. Sergeant Kim, take your squad through that passage, she ordered as they moved deeper into the Hive. I want charges placed on everything that looks important. The inside of the Prime Hive was like being inside a giant stomach. The walls pulsed, with veins that carried nutrients, and the air was thick with organic mist. But the human Marines had fought in worse conditions. Captain, we've found something, reported Sergeant Kim Taeyeon from deeper in the structure. It looks like a brain. A really, really big brain. Jung smiled inside her helmet. Perfect. That's our target. Meanwhile, on the final answer, Dr. Song Mina was monitoring the battle from the science station. She had spent 2 years studying devourer biology. She knew that destroying the Prime Hive's central consciousness would kill every devourer. In the galaxy? Admiral, she reported, the Marines have reached the central brain cluster. If they can disrupt it, ... Every devourer dies, Lee finished. All ships, concentrate fire on the Prime Hive's center. Give our people cover. The combined fleet poured everything they had into the massive creature. Nuclear weapons, plasma cannons, gravity bombs, humanity's arsenal of destruction struck the Hive again and again. But it was the Marines inside who delivered the killing blow. Captain. Jung and her soldiers placed their final charges around the brain cluster, a pulsing mass of neural tissue that coordinated billions of devourer creatures. Across the galaxy, as they prepared to detonate, Jung thought about her daughter back on Earth, and all the children who would grow up in a galaxy free from this threat. All Marines, this is Jung. Charges armed. Everyone get clear. The explosion tore through the Prime Hive's central nervous system like lightning through a tree. Instantly, the massive creature went rigid, its tentacles stopping in mid-attack. Across the galaxy, devourer ships suddenly went silent, their biomechanical systems shutting down as their controlling intelligence died. Admiral Lee watched the readings on his screens as the threat that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries simply ... ended. No more worlds would be consumed. No more civilizations would face extinction. This is Admiral Lee to all ships, he broadcast. The Prime Hive is dead. The Devourers are finished. The celebration that followed could be heard across multiple star systems as 12 different species cheered in their own languages. But Admiral Lee was already thinking about what came next. 3 days later, Earth sent out a new message to the galaxy. President Yunjuan's voice carried across the stars on every frequency known to galactic civilization. This is Earth, representing the Human Defense Coalition. To all civilizations listening, wherever you are, whatever you face, if you need help, if no one else will come, call us. We'll answer. We'll fight for you. We'll protect you. This is our promise to the galaxy. In the years that followed, that promise became legend. Species across the galaxy knew that somewhere in the Milky Way there was a young civilization that kept its word. When the galaxy called for help, Earth answered with courage, determination, and enough firepower to turn the tide of any battle. The age of humanity as the galaxy's protectors had begun.